How do you detect hackers on your network? Detection engineering is a whole field by itself, and usually I want to tell when there's bad activity happening on my network. One of the most effective controls for that are honeypots. And I wanted to talk a little bit about honeypots, and there's no better person to talk with than my favorite security founder ever, Haroon Meer. Super happy to be talking to you. You're the founder of Things Canary, which hit last year 20 million ARR. That's pretty insane for a bootstrapped company.
It's pretty cool, and I'm super happy to be here.
I I want to start maybe by saying why you're my favorite company ever and my favorite founder. Um, I've been using it for maybe 10 years now, and first of all, it's like so easy to set up. It's
Neat.
the whole process is made by people who very obviously care about the product and their customers. And like it's easy to set up, and then when you're setting it up, it's a very informed like so a canary token can pose as something lucrative for an attacker to click on or engage with so that you can get an alert, and you have some very realistic scenarios on like the hardware tokens can pose as like very common, very real targets that attackers go after. But also you have like, things like in Google Docs that can set up or API keys as we're going to talk about later. So it was very like, easy to use, made by people who care, very thoughtful on how to set it up. Um, and, um, and my favorite thing, something unheard of for security vendors, absolutely mind blowing, is I can find out how much it costs without without talking to anyone. So I can just go on your website and auto generate a quote, and it'll just tell me how much it costs, which is so hard to do with security vendors.
It's it's so surprising. Like one of the cool things. So I'll talk about the bootstrap. But one of the interesting things about getting to build a company is we got to do so many things that people told us were bad ideas or couldn't be done. And one of them is that price thing. Like almost everyone we worked with early on would say, so there's like classic sales teaching that says you never tell someone price until you get to explain value. And so when you deal with salespeople, they tell you like this is a bad idea. And early on, like we didn't know. We like, well, is it a bad idea? Like, are we just being stupid? And so many things like that. Like early on, lots of VCs told me that very soon I'd have to stop being involved in the product. And I'm like, but that's why we do it. Like, I love making the product and we care about the product. So yeah, I think there's lots of, like bad ideas that push people out of doing useful stuff. Thanks for liking our stuff. Like we genuinely try, more than anything to build a product that works. And in security, it's surprisingly rare. I think because of market forces. Like I end up speaking to lots of young product companies. So people who are now considering like raising or not raising often reach out to me. And a shocking amount of the time, like my thing to them is just like, does what you built work? Because if it works, like everything else will follow. Like if you've built something useful that works, we can find you funding or you can sell and generate funding. But it's interesting how often that's just not the thing that people are concentrating on. Like they're concentrating on like, is there a TAM or is there this fancy word or can I go to a pitch competition? And it's
Yeah.
like, listen, choose a problem that's relatively good and then solve the problem. And like, if you've solved the problem, your options are maybe you solve the wrong problem. But like just that should be simple. So no, we fans of like doing simple things and keeping the logic simple. And one of the things we're trying hard to do as we scale, like we're now doing it 10 years, is making sure we don't get distracted by life and we still focus on solving the problem. So I'm glad to hear you like it. It's something we try hard to keep our eyes on the ball with.
Yeah. I mean, I'm wearing the shirt
Nice
now.
shirt.
So I want to talk about the product itself, but first,
Sure.
real quick about a little bit about the bootstrapping process. So I'm a fan of the idea of bootstrapping. I mean, obviously it comes with its own set of challenges, but I'm a fan because I've seen with people who chase funding, their goal becomes chasing the funding rather than working on the product. So
Totally.
can you talk a little bit about like the idea of like bootstrapping your own company, which means like not getting external funding from investors? Like, what are some of the challenges with that, and how did you deal with
Yeah.
that?
So I'll give you some unusual takes on this, because it is, so a while back, a few years back, I gave a mini presentation at RSA on bootstrapping versus raising. And I'll tell you, first, the good parts. Like you said, I think people who get funding get easily distracted.
Mm,
Paul Graham writes about the top problem on your mind when you get up in the morning. And if your problem in the shower is raising money, then that's what you're thinking about first, building a product where you think about your customers. And Jason Fried from 37 Signals, and over the years, we've stolen lots of ideas from the 37 Signals guys. He talks about the honesty of charging your customers for your product. And he says, like,
mhm,
everyone says something, everyone's got an opinion, but you tell someone, pay me 5K for this product, and now you at honesty. And so you want to get as quickly as possible to that honesty, which
mm,
again, raising money allows you to push out for a really long time. So
mm,
so there's an honesty in it. And for us, we were never anti raising. Like people automatically assume I hate all venture capital. I don't. But I'm a fan of optionality. Like, so even running our business, I wanted us to run it well enough that if we needed to raise at some point, we could. And so even now, like, we do relatively well. Like, even funded companies would love to make what we make. Certainly our customer list is amazing. Like
yeah.
we've got great customers who use us, and we've still got the option that if we want to raise at some point, we can. We just don't think we have to. And by not having people on your shoulder saying, do you charge for this? Why don't you charge a little more for this? You get to be a little more deliberate with your product choices. You get to in. I'll tell you one of the things that VCs and raising money focuses on very heavily. That they always talk about how there's this land grab. Like, you need to raise money and grab all the land before your competitors do. And like, it would be a really sad product and landscape if the only thing, your only moat, was the fact that you were able to scramble for it. Like, InfoSec has problems that have plagued us now for 30 years. Like, nobody's beating you because they were 2 days early. Like making good
Yeah.
products are so rare that
Yeah.
that it's, and this land grab mentality leads people to a whole different style of thinking, where again, they're not thinking about the problem or the product. What they're in is, can we have the biggest RSA booth? Can we have the best ads at the airport? We haven't had too many making Super Bowl commercials yet, but I suspect we'll get there. But mainly, I think the alternative of, can I make a useful product? Can I make customers actually like me, that they keep coming back?
Yeah.
Like I think bootstrapping forces that honesty.
Mm,
If we suck, people won't buy us, and if they buy
mm,
us and we don't add enough value, they won't renew. And so you've got to change the way you operate to make that work. And like, now, as we get older in the business, we've got to have made sure that we were treating our people nicely so that good people stick around. We've got to make sure that we're investing usefully in R&D so that our project doesn't die 2 years after it's out. And for lots of those things, the VC model kind of works against it. It's a short-term sprint
mm.
till you get acquired, and then it's the acquirer's problem. And yeah, I think it leads to some perverse outcomes that bootstrapping avoids.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'll tell you an unconventional thing that raising money gives you. That for one, it's great for your ego, right? It's and I don't mean it in a bad way. I mean, when you're building a company, like there's a part of it when it's you and your five friends. You don't think of yourself as the CEO of a company. You're speaking to some big company. You go in with a lot less confidence. And if you raise 15 million from A16Z, basically you're getting a stamp of approval. Like Mark Andreessen thinks you're a CEO and introduces you to other CEOs. So there is a respectability that it gives you. But I've been a big fan of trying to tell security practitioners that almost all of that stuff, if you've worked in the industry for a few years and you've done good work, all of those benefits that you get from raising, you can get just by being a good citizen in the
Yeah.
industry.
So I was gonna say that like something that's invaluable, like no amount of money from Mark Andreessen could possibly buy is appreciation, deep appreciation from the security community. And that like now, like I can, if I go to DEF CON and I every time I mention things Canary, people smile, but I
It's
cannot
pretty
say that
cool.
about like Fortinet or Rapid,
Yeah,
you know.
it's
So there's like a big difference here, and even though that their marketing budget is probably 100 times yours,
yeah, it's no, it's a thing that we're proud of, and interestingly, again, I mentioned that it keeps you honest. Like even if we went completely off our rocker and decided to just do a money grab, now it would make bad business sense. Like doing the right thing ends up in a positive loop that says the community rewards it, the community happily introduces us to customers, and
Mhm,
if we started playing badly, that would stop. And
mhm,
so it ends up being in the company, as corny as it sounds, like the reason for the green heart on your shirt, like the company genuinely orients heavily to customer love. And
mhm.
so people in the company know that actually what matters to us is someone saying, that was awesome, we love you guys.
Yeah.
And so everyone in the company, from the way we collect money to the way we do support, everyone's optimizing for how can we make customers genuinely love this.
Mhm,
And like it's hard enough to build a company and companies choose which flag to rally around. Like lots of startups do the thing where they post their ARR on a ticker and everyone is watching that thing go up. Like in our company, we've never discussed it. Like we
mhm,
never talk about, like we don't ring a bell for new sales or anything like that. But what we post internally is every time some customer writes in with this is a crazy success. Every time we see someone in the industry wearing our t-shirts, so our t-shirts or our hoodies or any of those things, because we know that stuff matters.
mhm,
Like anyone can wear any swag, right? But like someone chooses to wear our stuff, like we think that's elite. And
mhm.
so yeah, the as a company we end up focusing on it, and so far it's worked out well for us.
Love that. Love that. So those who have used you love you, and for those who have not used you before, can you give like a brief overview of what exactly you do?
Sure. So Canary V1 were hardware honeypots. And
Mhm,
and it we started in 2015 when there was a resurgence of deception, so a few deception players raised money. But our central point is that if you can make honeypots so easy and painless to deploy, why wouldn't people? And so the slight difference was from honeypots that you drop on the internet and you get scanned 1,000 times by IPs from all over the world. Our point was place honeypots on your internal network. Nobody should know they're there. Nobody should touch them. And if someone touches them, it's probably a bad sign. And our whole pitch was, can we make them so painless to deploy that it's a no-brainer? And initially our pitch was that they install in under 4 minutes. And as time goes, we keep trying to make that even simpler. So now it's just plug it in. And we do insane amounts of engineering work to make that really dead simple. So one of the things that we've spoken about is like when you drop a canary on your network, as long as it can resolve DNS, so it talks to an internal DNS server, communication between it and your hosted console just works. So again, we get to dedicate lots of time to making it simple, but for users, plug it in and it works. And so the logic is you drop this hardware honeypot on your network. When you buy it, by default, it's a Windows server with an open file share, some interesting files, you can RDP to it. But then you get this management console, and with a few clicks, you say, I want you to be an IBM mainframe. And instead, it reconfigures itself. It now runs 3270, it runs Telnet. And again, our pitch is, if we make it easy enough and cheap enough, why wouldn't you do it? And so our initial story was, look, it doesn't matter what other security projects you have, like you've got long-running projects, just buy 5 of these and put them down. And if nothing happens, nothing happens. But if it goes off, it's going to change your mind about stuff. And typically what happens is customers take it because they've heard positive things. And within a year, it catches their pen testers, or it catches an intern who's looking around, or it catches attackers. And then they go, hold on, we should put these in all of our remote branches. Or why don't we put these in all of our data centers? And typically customers then grow their flock that way. So one of the things, like, we're really happy about hitting 20 million and having thousands of customers, but we don't do any outbound sales. So far it's been word of mouth and people saying nice things about us. Then they try this, where basically our entry-level package lets them get these 5 canaries.
Yeah.
And from there, they then expand their flock. So version 1 were these hardware devices, which still sell by the thousands. Like, people assume that nobody does hardware anymore. But it's a really easy way to start. And today, just like that hardware version, you get VM versions, so Hyper-V, VMware. They run in all the popular clouds, so AWS, GCP, Azure. But the logic, again, is dead simple with canaries. It acts like an entire operating system. You forget about it. When attackers are on your network, they touch it, and you get a high-fidelity message letting you know that there's badness. And then when we did Canary, we also did Canary Tokens. So if canaries are honeypots, then Canary Tokens are honey tokens. And the logic with Canary Tokens are really simple ways that we can get a high-fidelity alert that badness is happening. So again, the one that I like talking about, but we'll touch on a few. You come to us, we give you an AWS API key. You store that AWS API key on your CTO's machine, and you forget about it. When your CTO gets compromised at Starbucks or on your network, the sort of attacker you care about sees this API key on his machine, has to try it. As soon as they try it, you get a high-fidelity message saying, listen, the AWS key that was just on your CTO's machine just got used. And so we did something interesting with Canary Tokens. Initially, selling them would be complex. Like, selling canaries is a dead simple story. You plug this in, wait till it alerts. But Canary Tokens require more of a sell. And so what we did is we said, look, we'll give these away completely free. And so we put up canarytokens.org, and we experiment with new tokens. And canarytokens.org has been used by millions and millions of people. And like, it's one of the things when we talk to VC people or P folks, where they go like, do you know you're leaving money on the table? And like, we absolutely don't care. Like, it works, and people like it. And look, it gives us lots of benefits too, right? Like, when we are recruiting, we get to say to a young kid, like, yes, you can go work for this company and make interfaces for a bank, or you can work on this thing. And last year it was used like 5 million times. Like, and it's a no-brainer. And so Canary Tokens, every time we come up with a new token, we put it up there. And just for both tokens and canaries, throughout the year, we're experimenting with different ways that we can catch attackers. And some that we come up with, like, reliably catch attackers, but they're too messy to deploy. and so that doesn't make the cut. And some are easy to deploy, but not a high enough signal, and it doesn't make the cut. But we keep fiddling and keep researching, and when we find what we think is the sweet spot between really easy to deploy, really high quality signal, then we put it either into tokens or Canary.
So there's two tokens that I really love, and I want to ask you about one of them. So the first one is just in Google Docs, and so that, like, obviously a lot of times you're compromised through phishing, and so often the attackers, the first thing they look for is like passwords or credit card numbers on your Google Docs. And so you can set up, like, once someone accesses this Google Doc, once it's opened, it triggers an alert. Super effective control, right? You can call like a Google Doc like credit card numbers or something, and people will look for that. But the one token that blew my mind, I don't know how you did that, is the credit card. So you have like a fake credit card. Maybe I'll show a screenshot. A fake credit card, and once that's used, that triggers an alert. How did you do that?
It's a legit credit card. So we vend actual credit cards, and so it's super interesting. So yeah, what we do, you visit us, we give you a legit credit card, and when that card is used, you'll get an alert saying this card is now in use. and it's pretty cool. And when we had the idea, we spoke to a whole bunch of banks, trying to convince them that this is a good idea. And what we were hopeful of was that if we could convince just one bank to start, then other banks would see that it's good for them. Because if one of the good things about Canaries, and for this we get totally lucky, Canaries and Canary Tokens, is if attackers know that you're running them, it genuinely scares them, often almost into paralysis. So like our entry-level package could just be stickers that say, I run Canary. Because now when an attacker breaks in and they find creds, they're thinking like, is this legit? Like everything that normally lets them proceed in an engagement now makes them think maybe this is just a trap. And so our argument to the banks is, if you give us some of your credit cards, and if attackers see that your bin is a Canary card, then if they ever see your bins, they're not going to use them, because it's going to... lots of banks are keen, but banks have tons and tons of years of being told what they can't do. So lots of them are scared. So lots of banks use these credit card tokens, but are unable to participate by giving us their bins. But yeah, look, one of the benefits to how we do it, like, we've legit got agreements with banks to do it. And for customers, we actually pay for those cards. But one of the benefits of building a company and having some measure of success is you get to do braver things. Like when we first started, it was like, well, will anyone even buy this? Like, will anyone even renew? And now, as like we grow and customers trust us, we get to take that money and invest in things that we think are cool that maybe we couldn't convince an adult to do, but it's ours, so we can. And so we get to do cool things like that, both in and outside the business. And again, it's one of the hidden joys of running a business, is you get to do cool things that nobody says you can't do.
Yeah, I love that. And recently you just released a blog post, I think a few days ago, about there's a new sort of token which is an API key for CrowdStrike, and it's like a legitimate credentials for CrowdStrike. So you partnered with them?
Partnered with them is interesting. We like the some folks at CrowdStrike. They know we're doing it. We showed it to them. And so what we're doing there is we're using their tooling to build these tokens, and so it's gives you a legit key. Attackers can't tell the difference, and it works. And folks at CrowdStrike reached out saying this is great. They will use it, so works nicely.
So you just went ahead and did it without officially partnering with that?
we might want to check this. No, so in truth, we've got a long history with them, and certainly when we built it, we showed it to them before releasing it to the public. in case they
Okay.
said, this is horrible, tear it down. But in that case, well, I'll use it to give interesting, well, I think it's interesting, an option even for people who are thinking of building a company, and it totally dovetails. When we had the idea of building honeypots, like I reached out to, at the time, first like 5 people who I trusted from my previous life as a penetration tester. And I said to them, listen, if I built this, would you buy it?
Mhm.
And all of them said no. All of
Oh.
them said, we can build this ourselves. Why would we? And so it's where the stuff is not quite a fairy tale, right? Because in a fairy tale, but this is legit what happened. Like 5 of them said, we asked 5 people, all 5 said we can do this ourselves. And at that point, I thought they were wrong. They just
Mm,
didn't know how easy we would make it. And the
mm,
reason I knew that was because there's a company who I consulted for who trusted me, like I built that security team, and I kept telling them to use their interns to build honeypots, and they never got around to it. And so one of the things we felt strongly with was, listen, these guys trust me, these guys listen to me, but they still never get around to doing it. So what if
mm,
we made it so easy that those folks would just plug it in? And so we went ahead and made it. We knew those people would use it, but then we sent it to these people. And at the time we sent it to 10 people saying, listen, if we sold this for $5,000, would you buy it? And from that initial group, even though they originally said no, 8 of them came back and said, yes, we'd buy it. And so there's a part of it that goes, sometimes you've got to show it to people and let them
mm,
feel it. And so this CrowdStrike token that we've just released, we knew we could do it. We built a version of it, like a hacky version of it. And then the thing was, okay, do we mail them first and ask? Or do we take it some version of live and then ask? And you can imagine if you work for any vendor and you get a thing saying, hey, can we do this with you? It's going to be we've got to talk to legal.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
the easier answer is just to say no.
yeah.
And so what we did is we built a version of it, put it up on canarytokens.org, could only be accessed with a secret URL, and then sent them secret URL and said, hey, listen, here's this thing, here's it live, take it for a spin and see if you like it. And
Nice,
and they went,
nice.
hey, this is cool, we'd use it also. And of course you run the risk of maybe you've done all that work and they say no.
Yeah.
And that's part of the risk that you're taking. And you run the risk that they absolutely hate it. But so far we've gotten good results, like I said, from being good internet citizens. And
Mm.
so, like, we do stuff that we genuinely think means well, and mostly that works out for us. And so yeah, CrowdStrike token is now live. Go check it out on
I love that.
canarytokens.org.
I love that. Um, so one thing I wanted to ask, a little bit unique to your industry, is when you're doing a good job, or I guess some of your customers, maybe they're lucky and, they don't have any incidents for a year, and then they reach out to you. They're like, hey, why am I paying? Like this tool did nothing for me. We never got
Yeah,
an alert.
yeah.
How do you deal with those customers?
Um, we got again. It's one of those places we got lucky. Like when we started in year 1, I was starting to think like the first people have bought us, and I started to wonder like, how are we going to get past this at renewal time?
Right.
And because it's a valid question, like why am I paying for you? And we super optimize for being silent. Like at some point,
Yeah,
our
yeah.
Canary devices would have fake SNMP on them,
Mhm.
and we found it noisy, so we killed SNMP. But
Mm.
but the reason why I say we got lucky, it's totally ironic, because I once gave a presentation titled "Penetration Testing is Considered Harmful," on why companies doing I was basically saying, as a pen tester, that if we keep pen testing this way, we're going to become the antivirus industry, because people pay for us, and we, like, they have a good pen test and they still get hacked. So people are going to realize they're paying us for nothing. And I gave it at 44con to all my pen test friends, and lots of
Feisty
people
thing.
were cross with me.
Yeah.
But what saved us is pen tests.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
without
Yeah.
fail, customers have pen tests and we catch their pen testers.
Yeah.
And I say we're lucky because it's a little bit unfair. Like, so we have, it completely flips it for us now. Like, we have customers who, like, every week we paste in our internal Slack customers who caught pen testers. And the CISOs who catch their pen testers say, we spent X million on security, we spent 40K on Canary, and Canary was the only thing that caught these people.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
and of course, that's not completely fair, right? Because the other controls have other jobs.
Mhm.
But consistently, that works. And so, yeah, it ends up working for us, so we don't have that problem.
Yeah.
And we just got lucky for it.
Yeah.
And so if you have another product that works like that without showing value, you've got to figure a way to convince the customer you add value.
Yeah.
Fortunately, we got lucky.
You're saying we got lucky. I don't think you got lucky. I think that's exactly as intended. I think that's like the point. Is like you're so, you made it good enough that it does catch pen testers, and that's like the tool working.
Yeah,
I've had reports in the past where we caught our pen testers, we sent them the screenshot of the Canary alert, and they put it in the report. So I have like pen test reports with a screenshot of the Canary alert.
It's pretty neat. Like that. Even internally as a company, like it's uplifting. Like you can be having a rotten day, and you see like we ruined this. And what we've been really lucky with is we get lots of pen testers who reach out and say, listen, this stuff wrecked me on these assessments. And again, I'll use the phrase again, like we got lucky because in the way Canary works, right? Take Canary or Canary Tokens. Like you get this open share, the share has networking diagrams. What are you going to do? Not touch it. Like there's an AWS API key, and maybe it's legit or maybe it's a token.
You have to touch it.
What are you going to do? Not test this key. And so it ends up being so pen testers who are honest will often come up to us and say, listen, this caught me. Or I'll just get DMs from someone saying, this stuff wrecked me. Love you guys. And typically we'll send them a t-shirt to say like, hey, yeah, up your game. Like that's what this was supposed to be about. Like pen testing was supposed to make customers better. Now you've got to be better.
And I mean, I remember when I was a pen tester, like about 10 years ago, was when Things Canary was getting started, and I started hearing about you, and I started getting scared. And I started asking clients at the beginning, like, hey, like, do you use any canaries or honeypots? And like, they would all say no, and I was like, like I wonder why. I'm like, they should all be using those, because like that's such a like I was getting worried that I would have to like be like rethinking everything I see. Yeah.
So we still a software company, right? So we do mandatory pen tests so that we can give people reports.
Yeah.
And we once had a pen test where we eventually told a really good firm, and so they couldn't get in remotely and all of that. So at some point we told them, okay, here's a laptop that we've left in the boardroom, and we'll give you a shell on it and start from this laptop. And like we watched them, and for the first 4 days, like they did nothing. And like we reached out to them at some point with like what's going on? Like we don't see you guys doing anything. And they're like, no, we see this NAS, but we're suspicious. Like we see this and we're like, hey, listen, like we just threw you into the board, like just do your thing. But they were genuinely scared into paralysis. It's like, yeah, they're not touching anything. But it's interesting. One of the challenges we had super early on is we pitch Canary as this concept is so simple. It's so easy, just do it. And early on that almost worked against us because like if you've been in the security muck, like on the coalface for a while, surely the answers can't be easy. Like people are spending so much money on it. It must be hard. It must be complex. and to say to people, look, what this does is simple, and like people think there must be some sort of trick. Like surely it can't be. And so people would do mental gymnastics for, but what if I were on the network and I was observing all of this, and it's like, yeah, look, like I'm telling you this would catch me, and here's really good testers and it's
Yeah.
caught them, and here's attackers, and so early on there was that kind of cynicism, but fortunately not so much anymore.
Nice. Yeah. So one thing I wanted to mention was that so recently we've been seeing a lot of talk about AI pen testing, and to me that's essentially scaled automated pen testing, right? Like
Right.
at the scale that like humans couldn't have reached before. It's like people are starting to assume that they're going to be pen tested like or like attacked all the time, right?
Right.
um and my perspective on that was this is going to trigger like a golden age of honeypots, because like if you're
Yes.
just gonna assume that like people are gonna be like scanning you, maybe even reaching into your network and internally scanning you and going through, then how am I gonna scale, on the defensive side, how am I gonna scale my controls to match like that level? Like I might be drowned in alerts from like things like Prisma Cloud or like other things that are more noisy. And so then I realized like, well, then that makes honeypots like even more important.
Yeah, look, so obviously I've got a dog in this fight and people should not trust me, but again, it's something that I feel with what we build, and we put our hearts and souls into it. It it's lucky that it ticks those boxes, because even before immediate, like if you call it flux attacks, right, where you're just getting blitzkrieged, before that, part of our argument was, like, people think about these esoteric attacks in some environments, like someone is in your modern monitor, because these days every modern monitor actually has an x86 CPU in it.
Hmm.
And the joy of canaries is it doesn't matter whether the attacker socialed someone or phished someone or
Right.
came in through the firmware on your monitor.
Hmm.
They now on your network and have objectives. And in trying to reach those objectives, they're gonna touch this canary and you're gonna know. And with talk of all year round pen testing and all year round 0 day, again, what you worried about is someone here where it matters? Are they touching these machines or shares or files where it matters? And like to that end, canaries and canary tokens, like my honest thing is, we feel every company in the world should have them. Like
Yeah.
right now, our customers, if you take like top end Fortune 100s use us, but at the bottom end, like two-man law firm in the Midwest or like an aquarium uses us. And logically speaking, like everyone should have 5 canaries, because whatever else your options are, you want to know when what you weren't expecting happens.
Hmm.
And no, so it's a good time. We like to think it's a good time, like it's good for us. We'll keep trying to make good stuff.
Love that. Where do you see the company in like 10 years, 20 years? Like, are you gonna expand? In what ways are you gonna expand in? I'm just curious. Is that
That's
something you can
such a
even talk
good
about?
question. So it's not something we've planned hard for. Like initially, our plan was literally, can we do cool stuff and not die? And then we are like, can we build useful stuff that people will buy? Then it's, can we build stuff that people renew? Look, we like learning, and so in the company, like we're really big on learning things, and so we structure the company around, like, can we learn and can we teach each other things? and
Hmm.
and so we constantly trying to learn new things, and like I say, as we get more resources, we get to be a little more ambitious with that. And if you take Canary Tokens, right? If someone were to look at the Canary Token site, we call it one product as Canary Tokens, but it's actually like, I don't know, currently like 30 different products as 30 different tokens. And
Hmm.
and so right now we get to invent things that become Canary or become Canary tokens. But down the line, we'd like to invent other stuff. And as we become a bigger company, we get problems that we need to solve for us that I'm
Right.
hoping will be other
Right.
people's. A little while back,
Nice.
one that I thought had legs and went absolutely nowhere other than us was we had a problem with we had an internal problem where we shared a at the time we were using this mail vendor, someone like Mailgun, so it's like a Mailchimp
Mm-hmm.
type vendor,
Yeah.
and we exposed that API key, like we exposed it to a customer in a log,
Mm-hmm.
and so we said, oh man, now we've got to roll this key. We contacted Mailgun, and they told us they can roll the key in 48 hours. And so we
Mm.
like, that's insane. Like two
Yeah.
days to roll this key. Like, what if this key showed up on a public uh, share somewhere? And so we were curious how other people were handling all of their keys. Like, what if you take a typical SaaS business and you're using Mailchimp and you're using Twilio and you're using a whole bunch of vendors, but all of them do key rotation differently. And so if you get a key exposed, you've now at the mercy of that vendor.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we did internally was we built this tool called the broker. And so the broker holds these API keys and we then talk to the broker. So the only keys exposed for us are broker keys, and we can now cycle those keys or treat them differently. And we built it for us,
Nice.
but I thought surely other people have this problem. And so
Sounds
we
good.
blogged it and open sourced it, and absolutely just crickets. Like
Wait, it's
nobody.
open sourced? I didn't
Yeah,
hear
so
about
it's on
that.
our blog. It's open source, and
Huh.
we've been using it for the last few years. Like it scratches our itch. But my hope is that we'll keep finding problems like that that
Mm-hmm.
will grow into other solutions for people. And if they do, they do. And if they don't, they help us be a more secure company.
Hmm.
So 10 years from now, mainly I hope we're just doing cool stuff. Like our hope is that we manage to keep doing cool things, keep being useful.
I love to hear that. I'm super excited to see what you keep putting out because everything so far has been so nice to see.
Thanks, man.
Cool. Is there anything else you wanted to mention before we end?
No, perfectly. Thanks for having me on. It's been neat. And if I didn't say it before, that's a nice t-shirt.
Yeah. That was because you had a game like a Pac-Man style game that like if you compete and you get a shirt. I love that.
For a
See, that's
birthday.
another thing like giving back to the community, like just releasing cool stuff for no reason other than just being cool.
So if anybody wants Think stickers, if they hit gift.canary.tools, go there, choose stickers, and we'll send you Canary stickers free. Totally.
Love that. Cool. Thank you so much for coming on, Haroon.
Ah, thanks for having me. It's been great.